quick introduction here. Joey Connect, one of the senior leaders at Proteus. Proteus Engage is the product we're talking about here today. We're headquartered out of the Lincoln, Omaha area in the Midwest. So shout out to the Midwest if anybody else is on. Of course, I grew up in New York City, so I like everywhere. But shout out to the flyover states. And like I said, what I'm going to go through here is unlocking some of the secrets. So you might ask yourself, well, Joe, how do you know these secrets? Well, it's because we have tons of clients, a lot, and a lot of them have multiple location customer onboarding experiences. They are in professional services, project delivery, SaaS, every vertical you can imagine, from healthcare to financial services to manufacturing. I mean, you name it. We have a lot of government clients, ironically, also as they're rolling out programs. So we really see a pretty large swath of use cases, and look forward to kind of, again, I'll abstract these out a little bit, but then also deep dive into specific use cases on how to unlock multiple location onboarding. As I said to some of the early arrivals, kudos to you. Multiple location onboarding is extremely complex. We have clients that are doing 300 plus, consistent, always rolling out new things, very, very complicated environments. And then we also have clients that are doing onesie Tuesdays every week or one a week or whatever it might be. So I'll cover kind of the whole of spectrum there to help you out, but ultimately it really always rotates around communication, collaboration, visibility, and consistency of engagement, right? Not shockers here, right? Like anything else, it's always about, sorry, more people coming in. Always about kind of what people can see, what people can understand, setting the right expectations. You're going to win a lot of the time. So you'll get the theme, but again, kudos to you for taking in some additional information to make your experiences better. I'll talk about this at the end also, but one of the things I do is offer just a private one-on-one consultation. It's not a sales, it's not a demo. You can do that right off of our website if you want to. Again, one of our great consultants will help you demo, do all that stuff. But if you're really just looking for a one-on-one brainstorming session, or just like, hey, Joe, we're doing this kind of thing. Do you know da 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 da? I'll offer that up literally personally to my calendar, just to brainstorm with him. People really take advantage of that. And please, I hope some of you do. Also, again, purely from the best practices, how do we win? Because ultimately, that's what it's about. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, Joey Connect, senior leader. And I work with a ton of these clients. I'm actually one of the founders of the enterprise. So really been in this business for a long period of time. So let's start to frame this a little bit, obviously. So multi-location onboarding challenges. So some of you on this call might be OGs, and this is like, you're like, yep, totally, Joe. Like, that's why I'm here. But some of you also might be just getting into, you're releasing new products or services or something, and you're going to be dipping your toe into the multi-location environment. So just want to kind of tee up some of the low-hanging fruit challenges, but then also maybe some more intricate nuances. So the first one is, obviously the stakes are extremely high. Any deployment that you are going to be deploying against multiple locations, if done wrong, is that problem times 50, right? And so you're going to have a lot of challenges, obviously, in any kind of thing that you're doing multiple times, clearly, right? It's the multiplier effect. So you really want to be careful here and really take some notes and lessons as we go through these things, because it's truly the multiplier effect. So every one thing wrong can be a lot and hard to unwind. There's another webinar we've done that is an extremely successful one, of where a ton of churn for products and services comes is in onboarding because of missed expectations and all sorts of things. Literally large percentages, depending on the industry, 15 to 25% churn literally during onboarding. There's another webinar I'll share around that is extremely successful. So it does matter. And clients, your new clients, will take note of a poor onboarding, and it can financially be devastating, especially in a multi-location deployment. Okay. Every single, we all know, every location comes with unique nuances, right? And so this is one of the overarching challenges, again, of multi-location onboarding. And of course, it's the multiplier effect again. So we kind of look at it for most of our clients is that 70% to 80% standardized or somewhat rhythmic. And then also perceived customization. So you might chuckle here, but every client says, "Oh, we're so different than everybody else." Well, maybe, but realistically, it's usually out of a batch of minor adjustments and these things. And so I'll show you how you need to think about standardizing at minimum 70 to 80%, and then having a bank of kind of cards and options that you can kind of toss in to obviously fill in that other remaining percent, right? And that's real key as you go into this. Another kind of where the ball gets dropped, quite frankly, and on that second bullet point, and I've done other presentations related to this, is your new customer doesn't know what they don't know. And so between these nuances and also your goals of getting deployed, you have to remember that they don't really understand in many cases, like why are they even deploying what you have, or because they might just been looped in to get this to happen. So really making sure you're coaching and guiding those new customers is a very big piece of this. And that sometimes is the devil in the details. Okay, third one, again, the pressure of maintaining this environment to you might be overwhelming. As we've been joking already, I was just talking with a client last week, 480 locations being, need to be done in a year. We've had another one that's deploying into 30 hospitals in the span of 2 months. All 30 hospitals need to be done. Really complicated environments, but it doesn't have to be complicated for you, right? And that's the whole key. And I'll show you a little bit of work in the beginning can be massive dividends for you and your team and visibility on that to really drive these things forward, because it is complex. It is complex. You're hurting a ton of cats, and we're going to get into that here. And last but not least, priority of communication and collaboration. This is hard. Like, it's easy to say. So it's like, every marriage, right? Like, communication is king, right? Like, make sure you're communicating and collaborating, but you of course have to be able to do this at scale. And I think it's nobody's first rodeo here. Um, Things will happen no matter your best processes set up, best everything set up. Something will go wrong. Like, it's nature, it's humans, it's business. There's just lots of factors going on here. So, the best way to handle a challenging moment is for good, clean, and effective communication and collaboration, and having that visibility to that so that you can. One of the taglines in our company is Smokey the Bear, if you're familiar with Smokey. Um, see something, say something, like stranger danger, right? Or like once it's smoky, it's you want to get it to while it's smoking, not when it becomes an entire forest fire, right? And so having that visibility and communicating effectively on that is really, really critical as you're thinking about a multi-location onboarding. All right. So just some of the high level challenges, I'm sure for, again, some of you OGs here, this is pretty straightforward. But let's talk about this in a little more detail, and then we're going to break out into the 10 tricks. So everything I've been talking about here, right, is your team is on the left. So think of your company as on the left-hand side of the screen here, okay? And then on the right-hand side of the screen is, of course, your new customer, right? And obviously, tons of our clients just do one-to-one like this, which is obviously just onboarding one new customer. The problem is this amount of community and collaboration has to happen 20, 30, 50 times all at the same time, maybe across one account executive or CS person, or maybe across multiple ones. And so it's a tremendous amount of communication and collaboration has to happen. And this has to be done in a very efficient way. So you need to be thinking about this. And also, some of you might be scaling organizations, which means you're hiring more people to make this possible, or you're just, in general, your company is scaling. I'll show you how templating some of these experiences, the emails, and just the overall onboarding process obviously allows you to hire junior talent, but they can come across as senior to experienced onboarding specialists. So that's something, again, nugget of knowledge for anybody on this call is at least lay out your process and your experience, and all the way down to sometimes the communication elements, because that will help uplift new team members and train them the way you want. So again, this entire, you're going to have 7 to 10 people on your team, and then the client is going to have 7 to 10 people, then times 20, you can see how the multiplier effect comes into play. Really big consideration as you're starting to get into multi-location onboarding, because many of our clients they're not doing it linearly, right? That's ridiculous. You want to be doing this obviously as fast as possible, because many of you and your companies don't get paid until it's deployed, right? Actually, that reminds me, I have another great webinar and resources on our site related to the metrics of onboarding, 13 core metrics that you should be tracking around this. I'll include it in my meeting recap here, or webinar recap, to help you, because there's quite a bit of performance stuff you want to start measuring around these, definitely for efficiency and scaling, and then just high ROI for you and your teams. So again, anything, and again, 20 is a low number, right? Many of our clients, it's astronomical. So then the same thing happens with kind of the data management, right? So you got to communicate and collaborate, but then you have to do a tremendous amount of data movement back and forth. Again, things for you to consider, right? How do we have things templated? How do we get access to the information from the clients? If you're a software company that is doing configurations or all sorts of things like that, you're going to have a lot of data going back and forth. We call that GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. This is where your multi-location strategy can go to hell in a handbasket. And so again, considerations, you have your comm layer, and then you have your collaboration layer, and then you also literally have actual data going back and forth. Another thing to think about is security. So you can't just be emailing back and forth. Email is not a project management system, nor is it the proper way to be sharing anything of confidentiality, which is frequently leaned upon in onboarding, which can get you in quite a bit of trouble depending on the type of clients you're selling into, especially any regulated industry nowadays. But in general, any company now should not be onboarding via email. I mean, there's just a recipe for disaster there, right? So again, thinking about it on your own onboarding experiences or how you're bringing on clients, you want to really be thinking about these critical areas around that. All right. So that's a little bit of the framing for you, right? Now we're going to jump into basically 10 insider things, but I'm also going to show you, and again, rip off and duplicate. That's the reason why we do this, or R&D, if you want to tell your boss that you've been researching and developing something and then you just basically stole what I'm about to show you here. That's fine, but we would love you to be a customer at some point in time. But come on, I got to say that, right? So thank you on the chat. All right, let's jump in here. So okay, so the way I'm going to do this to kind of help out is I broke the 10 down by twos. And so for each of these bracketed concepts here, and I'm not going to read you everything here. Everybody's an adult and you know how to read. I'm going to talk about the concepts a little bit and then kind of show you how that works in our world and for obviously our tons of clients, but you can also then see maybe how that would work for you, or how you could apply it to maybe some existing things you had in process. So a lot of the complaints we get when someone comes to us asking for help is obviously the number one item, effective communication, right? Because communication is king. It sets the right expectations. It keeps everybody in flow. And then the second one I have here is seamless collaboration and breaking down of silos. We hear this every single time, especially as companies grow, or if you're selling into enterprise or it's an enterprise onboarding. You're going to have just all of these different people, individuals, their silos. It's hard to keep everybody on the same page. Inside each one of these, I broke out additional sub elements. Of course, you can get all these. We also have a great article summarizing all this in quick form that I will send out also as a resource for you post event. So effective communication and siloing and getting everybody in one centralized environment, right? Top two, because that's your framework, that's your base. You got to get everybody on the same page, right? You got to get organized first before you can do anything times 20 or 100, right? And so there has to be a common environment for this to happen. So with that said, you'll kind of understand where I'm going now. So what you're looking at here now on the screen is what we at Proteus Engage call an Engage workspace. And so this is just a fake one. This is Dealer Tech, a company that sells technologies to dealers, car dealers, any kind of dealership. Of course, we have lots of those types of clients. But you can see here what I want to showcase, and you need to be thinking about if you are actively doing multiple onboardings, multi-location, or you're thinking about getting into it. The first is having a truly centralized environment for all this communication and collaboration, whether it's document sharing, and I'll expand more here. But we provide client-facing solutions too, both sides of the equation. Again, you're bringing two independent parties together to navigate and onboarding. Some of our clients' onboardings are even multiple months, right? Even to a year, depending if it's a government deal. So it depends. So as you add more time and more complexity, clearly the need for this escalates dramatically. I'm not going to walk you through every feature or anything like that, but I just want to bring things to life for you. One critical aspect of what you're seeing here is this is a workspace to the actual corporation. And then you can see you can have different workspaces inside our platform for each dealership. And this is where you have 200 of those you need to be working against, right? So what we provide our clients is a centralized environment to the actual company you just signed the deal with, Dealer Tech. And then obviously you're helping Dealer Tech roll that out. You're rolling out your product to 200 Dealer Tech locations, right? So you always have that corporate relationship that you have to maintain, because this is where that churn comes in, or lack of cross-sell and upsell post-stream. So you need to build trust and relationship, obviously, with corporate. And then in one centralized environment, all 200 rollouts can obviously be monitored by Dealer Tech people also, and of course your team. So again, centralized environment, centralized communication around everything that is going on. I'm going to come back to this concept here in a little bit, but this is part of the communication thing. If you're not doing some sort of mutual plan / checklist, you can call it whatever the heck you want. I don't care. But as long as you're doing something like this is really probably the make or break for most. This is what we call our checklist or mutual plan system, which has a tremendous amount of automation that guides the customers through the onboarding experience at the corporate level, and then also obviously at the individual location levels. Really, really critical, all templated, highly scalable. But just if you don't have a concept like this and you're building out ideas now, this is something very, very important to think about for your team and kind of next steps. All right. So just giving you kind of high level. So baseline, getting everything organized, like I talked about, the communication strategy and breaking down those silos so everybody has visibility. So as I mentioned, I was going to come back to this. The next step, obviously building blocks, centralized ecosystem, then how to manage and set expectations, right? And making these repeatable, because where you'll go crazy is individually handling each onboarding independently. So that's just camp run amok, clearly, right? But then the also thing, and it's in one of those nuggets there, it says mutual plans, as you can see on the screen. The other thing that is extremely important for a lot of our clients is they want to continuously improve and set metrics of success. This all gets tied in with customer sat surveys or post onboarding. We'll get to that here as we get later into the ecosystem. But ultimately, what we want to be able to do is create repeatable results that we can be measuring for continuous improvement. It also helps dramatically for you justifying ROI, right? So every onboarding or implementation leader, no matter what company you're in, you're having to fight for resources and budgets, right? So you want to be able to justify the impact that you're having and how you guys are doing that efficiently. A lot of our clients see about 30% efficiency just in operational time, which is huge, but then also client expectation and success. So these next two, realistic goals, right? And building success. When I say realistic goals, so this is interesting. And I've said this on some other presentations and some people challenge me on it, but then they actually agree in the end. So what I mean by that is we have mutual plans, right? Or checklists, like we talked about, clearly outlining the experience for onboarding and making sure the needed resources on the client side is there. And there's always pressure by the organization to onboard as fast as humanly possible. But in our pre-check on a lot of our clients, if you don't have enough time to actually do the onboarding correctly, we're going to move you to a later onboarding date, right? And that's by setting the right expectations and holding people accountable that this process will take X days. We have a client of ours that when I did a meeting with her large organization, VP, she said, Joey, we tell our clients during the sales process that they're going to be live in 30 days. She's like, we haven't been live in 30 days ever. She's like, it's realistically like 90 to 120. And she's like, so the expectations, and maybe some of you on this call, the expectations are like way out of whack because their product is very custom too. It's not just a canned solution. And so she says one of the things that she needed the most help on is setting the right expectations during that handoff process, which frequently are done through these, right? Because you have not only the sales process, but then of course you need the handoff and then you're onboarding them. So they leverage us obviously to handle that tricky handoff process and also setting those right expectations through mutual plans. And in their case, they had multiple mutual plans going for different leadership types. It can get very complex, obviously. For today's purposes, just clearly keeping it simple so that you guys can manage those things. I will also denote in this, and again, this is a fake dealership, right? But you can see on this dealership, a lot of our clients are actually installing like physical stuff too, right? So we have professional services, we have software deployments, we have hardware deployments, and some of you on this call are like, Joey, we do it all. Exactly. We have tons of clients that are doing all three, right? And sometimes in phases, like phase one, we're doing this, then phase two, we're doing that. So ultimately, that's what happens here. And so this is just a super simple example, obviously, for public consumption, but you might do location prep. So we have a lot of people who are sending people, in this case, to a dealership. Well, what are all the things that have to be done and prepped before they go to the dealership? What happens during the installation process, right? You might have installation resources that you're sharing, right? And other things, obviously, to work through, and even warranties like taking photos and making sure things are all correct for any of your hardware or other things there. So again, you can kind of see how the building blocks start all to work together for you. And you need to think in your experience which ones are the highest priority, but then eventually backfill all these because this is mission critical to scaling, measuring, knowing what's going on, obviously, at every single location that you're deploying on. Okay.
That I have inside me that didn't get to come out. And so I woke up at 60 and thought, if not now, when? If not me, who?
Okay. That was pretty awesome. Well, it is me, and I don't know if anybody else heard that. That was awesome. Very inspiring. If me now. So it's okay to laugh. Um, so we're going to jump to the next two. So enhanced visibility. Clearly, this is anything. This is obviously mission critical during just a normal one-to-one onboarding. So all these aren't just concepts for that, right? And then also scaling and efficiency. So again, you can kind of see as the building blocks is you need a centralized environment for communication and collaboration. Then you need to be able to activate that and automate a lot of that, right? And then you got to get into, okay, now that we're doing this, how do we organize all of this and make this reproducible to scale, right? And that's mission critical, obviously, for anything that you're doing because you don't want to be reinventing the wheel. Where we see a tremendous amount of inefficiency in clients and also the end customer being onboarded where they're frustrated is it's not consistent. This location is being deployed differently than this one. Now, we did talk about that there is going to be that 20 to 30% uniqueness of each one, but at the core, you're wanting to at least standardize everything and then be able to pull just some ad hoc stuff to this. So one of the things, excuse me, we work with clients on is making sure that you are templating as much as possible. And so we have a gigantic template infrastructure and automation infrastructure. These are all the things you need to be thinking about. And like from a communication perspective too, your email templates and other things of that nature, simple things in our platform, but for you to think about is if somebody marks this done or they have a question, the system can proactively ask them, Tiffany, do you have a question? And it can Slack or email your team so that you're always keeping on point. So it's very critical. The devil is in the details, but ultimately you'll start to get extensive efficiencies as you're communicating and collaborating with each, in this case, dealership. And then, of course, you're wanting to keep corporation, the mothership, the original client, the master corporate client, also up to date as to what's going on the progress of all 20 locations, because just the time needed to keep people up to date can be overwhelming. Just up to date to corporate. So there's reporting and all of this kind of consistency to drive that home. Okay. I think you're probably trend lining here as these all start to build off each other. And so number eight, 7 and 8, these kind of are aligned, but it's that consistency. And so when I say consistency, it's not probably what you think. What I mean by that is consistency isn't one size fits all by no means. So in our typical client experience, and what we suggest you do, however you're doing your onboarding, is you got to look at your portfolio in a certain way. And I'm going to make this up, obviously, with Dealer Track here, or Dealer, not Dealer Track. That's a real company. My fake one here. So with that said, that's awesome. They or a company will have different types of customer profiles, right? So this one let's just say this is automotive, just to keep this fun. And so they're rolling out to dealers. Yes, but that dealer might be a Toyota dealer, a Ford dealer, and a Hyundai dealership, right? 3 different dealer types. So then by each of those dealer type experiences, there might be different things that have to be done. And so when we're helping clients understand how to get to that full maximization of experience, consistency, engagement, is decoupling not only your onboarding experience from getting them onboarded, it's also who are they? So many of you might have hospital clients and law firms or different types of clientele. So your experiences to onboard are going to have to be catered to them. But then how do you make that highly scalable, right? And that's what the second piece is here, is managing complexity with confidence. So when you're onboarding somebody and it's a Ford dealership and you're not using the terminology that Ford uses or Hyundai uses or whatever, right? Again, keeping this in this playground of brainstorming, ultimately people get disconnected. And so you really have to cater each one of the experiences, not only to the type, like I mentioned, but also who you're communicating and collaborating with inside those set organizations and what product you're actually onboarding. So many of you will have a product, a service, or something that is, they're different. So maybe it's product A, B, and C. Well, then the onboarding experience for Ford for product A is one way, but product A to Hyundai is a different way or the same exact way, right? So really thinking through that, again, this is heavily critical, especially in when you're onboarding a ton of clients, and just making sure they're satisfied with it. So again, it's the multiplier effect on you, not on them, not on the client, because the client doesn't want a one size fits all, because that's where communication and collaboration break down, or they're like, then none of this makes sense, or your integrations aren't right because those integrations really are for something else, or you're just wanting to onboard them for a specific product line of your tool. This also becomes critical. We have a lot of clients that when they are doing that multiple onboarding, they're only deploying product A right now, but the contract by design is product B and C should be coming soon, right? So it's not just the initial deployment. If anybody on this is like a small SaaS company or something like that, typically that's how it has to go, because SaaS companies, you gotta date before you get married kind of stuff, or it's a phase deployment. So you're consistently onboarding with these multiple locations for literally 2 years, because you're always rolling out new modules and or services to you. So if anybody's on the call, that's, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not only just deploying to multiple locations, you literally are deploying multiple times to the multiple locations, right? And that's very common now in modern business, and especially in software sales, or if anybody on this call is in the PS world, professional services world, you only live if you have reoccurring contracts, right? You got to hunt that next opportunity. So you go into that enterprise, you sell them the first idea, the first project, but immediately you're looking, what is that second, third project we can be doing for them? Or if you're a data conversion company and the first thing is to analyze your data, then the second is going to be to do this and then do whatever. You guys know, your business. We see it all. These are critical. These workspaces, that workspace I just showed you then is that central hub for all that community and collaboration over that extended period of time that you're going to be doing all of these services. And if you're asking yourself, well, Joe, do you guys do like quarterly business reviews? Do you recommend doing stuff like that instead of? But yes, we have a ton of clients who are sharing performance reporting through the tool. We integrated with Domo and any of Power BI, any of those reporting packages. So if you want to be sharing performance metrics also through here, slam dunk. Okay. So again, think of this as a fully connected experience. That's how yours has to work. Onboarding can't just be ship them in, ship them out. You will not get to the level that you're desiring. That's why you're here, right? Okay. Last two. Right on track. Last two. Little selfish, of course, but number 9, I had to, right? I mean, come on now. Like if your company would, I mean, like that would be wasting time, right? So leveraging technology, of course, I encourage you, check us out. We know what the hell we're doing and we're very good at it, clearly. But that doesn't just mean us, right? And so I'd love you to take those hard questions that I talked about, one-on-one consultation if you would like, literally just to brainstorm and walk through ideas. But we have proven this methodology and approach extremely well, and know the Kia, the Camry, and the Cadillac, not to poke fun at the dealership side, but with many of our clients, we start small, the Kia, which is a great vehicle and company, and then the Camry, and then the Cadillac, right? And we get you over a period of time to that Cadillac state with 22s and nice rims, right? And so ultimately it is a process. We help clients go from zero to hero in, anywhere from 3 months to a year, just depending on how complex your environments are. So would love to do that. But if you're a small group, super small, we work with a lot of small clients, but ultimately, if you're just trying to figure out your strategy, you can test and validate these ideas, but ultimately everything needs to be centralized for reporting and scaling. So definitely you need a tool to do this right, not only from your side, repeatable, scalable, measurable, so you know how to take care of your team. It's also, and we did another presentation on this also, the client's expectations, right? Like it's not always about you. It's really mostly about them, meaning the people you're onboarding and giving them and making it no hassle, easy for them to be successful. Okay. And then measuring and celebrating success. So the last piece of this is, and again, I'll call back to what I said earlier. For many of your companies, this onboarding isn't just a one-time transaction. It's going to be continuous, right? And so making sure that you're honestly looking at metrics to do that, and also celebrating those successes internally for your own team members, but then also with the clients, right? Really trying to build that trust and relationship, because that's very critical, obviously, for future contracts and opportunities within the ecosystem, right? And so this is a very big piece that a lot of our clients really enjoy. So what I mean by that is there's two levels of this. Again, this is a client-facing workspace. So you have one communication group, obviously, which is corporate, right? So you sold your product offering or service into corporate. They've been monitoring the entire time how you guys are progressing on your deployment to 20 dealerships, right? So you've been providing them feedback and all of that here through the platform. Again, whether you're using our checklist system or other reporting stuff, obviously we do a tremendous amount of video sharing. All sorts of things obviously are delivered through the platform to maintain that relationship and expectation management, which is critical, obviously, to that. But then also, as you do every single dealership, you want to extend that relationship all the way down into each location that you're doing. So we frequently are helping measure these localized experiences also and rolling that up to your master contract, obviously. And again, many of you, you're probably being tested and validated again. That Kia Camry Cadillac, maybe you're only doing a pilot to 15 locations, and based on that, you then get 400, right? That pressure, as I alluded to one of your chat, that's where this all comes in, right? Because that pressure is substantial. And if the product doesn't get sold to the other locations, who are they going to blame? I'm not picking sides here, but sales is going to say the client loved the product, but we had a crap deployment, so we lost 90 locations. Probably not true, but it's going to be perceived that way if the process of getting them onboarded and the consistency wasn't there. And if there was a problem early on, we should have been able to identify that and rectify that before the future deal obviously was destroyed or blown up. So there's a tremendous amount of risk. I understand where you're sitting right now, right? Like it's scary because that deal might have took 6 months to a year to sell in. Now you're deploying the first amount of groups. You really want to make sure things are going right to obviously win additional business. And so these are just things again to think about, because managing through email, managing through only an internal tool. So I should mention we're deeply integrated with Salesforce. We're deeply integrated with HubSpot and others. We're integrated with your email. We're integrated with Slack, Teams, freaking everything. And so the communication and collaboration is all tracked. It can go into your customer files, all sorts of things, so that this is very, very seamless to your experience internally. So real key, I'll tell you, the 10 things I'm telling you here are not catered for our product. These are the real problems. Clearly, we have grown our corporation substantially because we listen to the clients. And so we have now built all of these products and services around that to make them win, right? So those 10 are critical. They're not just our marketing pieces. They are literally what our clients had complained to us about. And we built a solution that's purpose built for this multi-location. I have been showing you that all of these are in different workspaces. They also can be on a single workspace. That we also work with a ton of resellers also, where the actual deployment in the multi-location is not your team. So we have many in healthcare and other ones that have professional installers. The same process works for professional installers too. And some of you might have a blended ecosystem where you have you, an installer, and then some of our corporate installs, some are blended installs. You can see how this efficiency and, most importantly, consistency of engagement, when you have separate individual parties maybe doing that install, mission critical to say what we call in the business CYA. Because you can prescribe out exactly what needs to be done and you have complete visibility as to what's going on there. Okay. So again, from a multi-location, I've kind of been talking in that, concept of direct where you're doing both. There are many of our clients that there are third-party install groups or VARs, value-added resellers, other kind of folks involved in that. So again, that's even more people, and this helps herd all of those cats there. Okay. I alluded to it earlier. Some of the things that are very important about all of these 10 that I've been talking to you about here is just, again, that consistency of engagement, high communication and collaboration, and all of these factors really determine whether or not the onboarding goes well. Again, you might have problems, but you're finding them fast and resolving fast, which is critical. What do we see with all this? I alluded to it earlier. 30% at least operational efficiency of managing all this data and people, obviously. We do onboard clients, obviously, faster because of those reasons. We also see about a jump in about 45% in engagement, which is huge, right? Because you're assigning homework assignments out. We use those mutual plans to do that. So homework assignments are done faster and you're able to follow up on things so that the whole entire process has cleaner data, better data, and faster to get you out there. So just, again, do the 10. I recommend obviously us, but definitely if you're struggling, there might be some gaps right now, Johari window, that you can go fix very, very quickly and fix a problem that might start tomorrow when you're onboarding a client tomorrow. The path, I kind of just said this. These are the 10. These are not alone though. So the purpose of this webinar clearly was kind of giving you some ideas, insights on a multi-client, multi-ecosystem type of thing to make you successful. There's a whole nother presentation I encourage you, because it's very much dovetails into this, is operational efficiency and the metrics needed to measure your team's performance, especially in a multi-environment, so that you have those benchmarks for continuing improvement. So they're not separated. There's lots of things in our product that we have reports and analytics and all this stuff for the operational side. That's not today's thing. But ultimately, this is then pieced together with giving you your core metrics so that you can be performance managing your team also. It's not just about achieving and getting the clients happy, awesome, but how do we effectively, manage all the players, your team, and all of that to improve, obviously, just overall operational efficiency for the enterprise overall. Okay, so they're connected, and I encourage you, and I'll send that out. I'll post this because it helps you come up with the math. Let's just say if you're doing budgeting or you're doing it, or you're at Joey, what's your ROI? Astronomical, right? So we can kind of map that out for you, because the math does matter. Okay, appreciate the time with everybody. Again, some of you have been on, others, the style. Shared you a lot of information. Clearly going to rack up this deck, this video. You guys can consume at a later date. I'll include some of the additional resources I will put out there, as you see there, Joey Connect, jconnect@proteus.co. That's my personal email. You won't be gated by anybody or sales rep or anything. Sign up a time with me, half hour if you want, and just literally brainstorm if you got a challenge or an opportunity or a business case that I can help you wrap up from a budgeting perspective. And or if you're doing something and you're like, we're really struggling penetrating colleges or high schools or K through 12, or like literally we are in every vertical. And so onboardings even by vertical are a little bit unique. If you're in financial services or healthcare, for sure, we do a ton in that. And that's like another whole layer of complexity. So again, appreciate the time, Joey Connect, one of the senior leaders. I appreciate your time and talent. This is going to be our last webinar before the holiday season. Our next one is going to be on the 30th of December. I think we're going to cherry pick one right in there. That's going to be specifically on mutual plans. So if you want to join for that, kind of penetrating more into those mutual plans, literally details of techniques and approaches we see work, I encourage you. I think that sign up might already be out on the site. If not, it will be very, very shortly. So again, appreciate the time, and everybody have a great, safe holiday. And we'll be talking with you soon at our next event. Thanks, everybody.